Ordinary, foot down on the concrete. Everyday grind, but my mind don't sleep. Gifted with a vision and a fire to keep. Holistic man, rising from the deep. Feet on the ground, hands to the sky. Connecting the dots between earth and sky. Seeing the world through a different eye. Holistic man, ain't afraid to try. God make me a holistic man. Lift me high when I don't understand. Guide my steps with a gentle hand. God make me a holistic man.
Welcome everybody to the very first episode of Holistic Man. Ordinary men, extraordinary gifts. I am going to be, I guess, the host and the founder of this podcast, Jeffery Smith Sr, and I have the pleasure and the honor of introducing you to the man that started it all, the one that is the greatest man outside of Jesus Christ in my life, Jeffery Smith Sr. Come on, I need y'all to put your hands together for him. What's up, Pop?
Hey, what's happening? How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Well, I'm glad that you have allowed me to, interview you and just host you on the very first episode. I thought there would be no better way to launch this thing without having the conversation with you.
That's great. I'm glad to be here. And as always, I think I've known you quite a while.
I think you have.
So it's all right. So since I've known you all this time, you always got access to me.
Well, I appreciate that. Listen, y'all, this is about to be a wonderful conversation. When I was thinking about Holistic Man, when I think about what that meant, I envision you, Pop, just your life, your legacy, the things that you've done, the things that you've experienced, how God has just blessed you. And I was like, let me get him on here and just allow him to grace us with his wisdom, grace us with just who you are as a man and how God has blessed you, and share some nuggets and wisdom. Listen, y'all, the reason why I'm wise is because of you, because of what you've instilled in me. So I was like, I got to get him on here.
Well, I appreciate that because I've had you as my son. I never forget the first time I brought you home. And the Lord said, always remember he belongs to me.
Yeah.
And so I always knew I had you on loan. I wasn't the owner of you, so Lord was the owner of you. That's the word he gave me. He said, always remember he belongs to me.
And that has been true.
Yes.
As much as I've tried to run. Get away. I couldn't get away from it. He has truly blessed me with that. And I'm grateful that he gave you that word, because that has been literally the standard of my life, is that ultimately, I belong to him. And every time when I'm running or whenever I'm facing any type of circumstance, I'm always remembered that I'm his and my identity is set in him. So I'm grateful for that.
Because that's one of the things that kept me from dominating your life, because I knew I was only a part of it, and God had his ultimate destiny for you. And so I had to sometimes sit back and let him work things out and not me work them out.
Right. Yeah. And that's a tough thing to do as a parent, as especially with a man to another young man. There's certain things that you've experienced, there's certain things that you've seen that you were like, I want to keep him away from this. And so you try to put your hand and your control on him, but at the same time, like, you understood not to do that. But what was some of the difficulty in that, and making sure that you didn't dominate my life, or even, Jessica's and my sister's or my brother's life in that regard?
And I was asked a question years ago, which one of your kids was the smartest one and the best one, like that. That was a divide question.
Gotcha.
And I never forget, God gave me an answer. He said, as each one of them are gifted in their own unique way. No one never asked me that question again.
Wow.
Because I saw the uniqueness that God had given all of you. Y'all had a unique way of dealing with things. God has given you unique gifts that were beautiful, and I could appreciate all of them. And that has helped me not to push in. The biggest thing was that I didn't try to live my life through you. I played football, and I didn't try to make you play football.
Right.
I lived in a tough community. Y'all did live in one with me sometimes, but the point was, I didn't try to make y'all hard like I was, or try to let my mentality become your mentality.
Right.
and that dominance that sometimes parents put on their children, so they want them to be like them, more so allow God to grow you the way He wanted you to be.
Right. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's powerful that you didn't try and allow us to have that same mentality as you had, have that same background as you. You wanted to broaden and expand our lifestyle by where you had been, and knowing that, hey, I've been through this. My kids don't necessarily have to be that. And so as a man, you saw that from the beginning. So we were talking about kids, we were talking about fatherhood. We've kind of just jumped in here into that. So what was that feeling for you? What, as a visionary, because I know you see things, God talks to you, God speaks to you. As a man back in his early 20s, what was your vision for, family? What was your vision for marriage? What had God set on your heart once you had, I know we're going to go back at that, but what was your heart posture when it came to being a father, being a husband? What were your values? What were your core things that were deeply important to you?
When I met my wife, Lily.
And they've been married, 38 years? 38 years. Woo, let's go.
38 years. And I thought, at that point in time, I remember when I got saved, I said, I need to get married. It was no longer dating and running around and things like that.
Right.
I needed a wife. And when I met someone, my idea was to get married. Not to have you had to have a relationship, but in the sense of nothing more than just getting married. My thing was marriage was the next thing on the agenda. When I got saved, I was in my 20s, I think 23, 24.
Okay.
Maybe a little older, around that time. But when the Lord saved me, He saved me from a very difficult situation. I just got an 18-wheeler that just ran me off the road. And when I got out of there, I said, Lord, I need to get my life together.
Right.
And not many days hence, I gave my life to the Lord, and I walked out of that wreck. I never forget it. I walked out of that wreck, and I said, okay, I need to get saved. Found a church, Pastor Logan up in Fredericksburg,
right,
Virginia. He became my pastor for life until he died. He was my pastor, and he put his loving arms around me, and I knew I had to get married. I was looking for a wife. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend.
My God.
I had girlfriends, and I knew what I didn't want.
Right.
I knew what I didn't want.
Right.
And I had this thing, and I probably shouldn't put this out there, but I'm gonna put it out there. I said, if I found in the club, I gotta get it. If I found her in a club,
you gotta keep her in the
club.
Yeah,
club. So
that's word right there for somebody.
And I didn't want to have a woman that I got out of the club.
Right.
I wanted from the church. I've been growing up in church. My dad was a pastor.
Right.
And so we grew up in the church all our life. I dated most of the church girls all my life.
Right.
And so when I met Lily, I said, okay. I said, we need to get married. She thought something was wrong with me.
And we're going to have her on the spot one day because, we need to hear her side.
She thought something was wrong with me. I said, this is what I believe. I said, it's like you got a stage full of women. When the light shine on the one for you, the rest of them go in the shadows. And this is the one for you. And you're the one for me.
Yeah.
And so I knew I wanted to marry you. And she was like, when you want to get married? I said, next year. When? August 29th. We was dating November then.
Right. We're going to talk about that timeline.
And so she was a little nervous about that because I was sure. I said, we can go to pastor's office. We ain't got to go through all this other stuff. I'm a no frills kind of guy, thrift store kind of dude.
Right.
So I said, we gonna get this over with now.
Right.
I know I want to marry you, and you're it. And so for me, marriage was it. I had no other idea than to get married and to marry her.
Right.
And once I set my eyes upon her, she was a little nervous about it because it was too quick. She said she thought about the next year. I said, no, we need to get married now. Right. I was like, let's go and get this over with.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, when I got married, that was it. I don't want to be married to nobody else. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't messing around with nobody else. And so, and this is, I guess, this is one of the things I told the Lord. I said, Lord, if I got to live like I lived before I got saved, I need to die.
Oh, wow.
I told him that. I said, I don't want to live like that no more.
Mm.
You know, there was a singleness of purpose, singleness of drive. And once I set my eyes up on her and I said, this is it, I wasn't changing my mind.
Right.
You know, because to me, she was it.
Yeah.
And nobody else would fit that bill. And so I decided, I really, once we finally got married, you know, and I told her this. I said, when I married you, throw away the key.
Well,
I said, I don't want to leave. I don't want to go nowhere.
right.
I want to come home, sit here, enjoy you, and forget the rest of it. I said, if anybody tell you I won't be the best, they lying. I don't want to be with nobody else.
Right.
And I tell everybody that I said, I don't like nobody else. Like, we ain't got no time for nobody. I want to go home. I want peace in my home. I want to enjoy my wife. And so, for me, marriage was the single thing that I really, really look forward to.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, you get to express your love to one person.
Right.
And that should last a lifetime. I'm not saying you don't have difficulties in marriage, but the point I'm getting at is at that point in time, my vision for marriage is that this is the one person I'm going to live the rest of my life with.
Right.
We're going to have a good time. We did have a good time. And we would laugh, and we laughed about it, man. There were times on Saturday we get up and laugh, and we laugh an hour. Just talk and laugh,
right.
talk about stuff. And when we were dating, we eat dinner, we start talking. She'll tell about her life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell about my life, and we'll just sit there and just talk.
Wow.
And sometimes the first time we talked on the phone, this is how I know it was good. This is how I know I want to marry her, guys.
Mm-hmm.
First time we talked on the phone, we started at like 8 o'clock.
In the morning?
At night.
Oh, at night. Oh, wow.
And we got the phone at 5.
In the morning?
In the morning.
Oh, wow. And that's crazy.
We talked all night long. And we just talked.
Wow.
And so it was one of those magnetic, loving relationships that we enjoyed one another long before we got married, but we enjoyed one another.
Right.
And so when we got married, man, it just went on.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In marriage, you learn more things you did when you were dating, But
Right. It's a whole different world over there.
Yeah, the world changes, but
He said, what?
But the whole point was, and so I had this list of things that I believed that a wife had to be and all of that.
Like you actually wrote it down?
Yeah, I got it right now.
Okay.
I ain't got it with me today, but.
Right, yeah. But you actually wrote down what exactly you wanted.
We talked about it.
With her?
Yeah.
Okay. And you trying to figure out if she fit that list?
She did.
She didn't? Wait a minute. Wait, she didn't match the list?
Not all of it.
Not all of it?
No.
So, okay, let me dive in it because I didn't know this, y'all. This is new. So on this list that you had for your wife.
I still got it in my office.
I know you still got it in there, but I'm just saying for the list that had in your life, when she did match the things that you had, what still moved you to move forward and knew that she was the one? As a man, we're like.
This is what I said. I said, if you love someone,
mm-hmm.
you'll be able to fit the rest of them.
Wow.
She couldn't cook.
Right.
Where I come from, cooking was everything.
Oh, yeah, you can cook, Pop.
So she couldn't cook.
Mm-hmm.
And so, got to tell you a story about that, and I'm going to come back to that. She, one day, she brought me out to the house, and she had got this chicken. I thought, man, she had the chicken she threw down. It was, man, I'm biting fingers, it was so good, I mean, this chicken was righteous, I tore that chicken up.
Right.
And so, so one day she came to my apartment. I said, well, go and cook that chicken right there. You know how you cooked it at the place?
Yeah.
Go and cook that chicken. I'm going down and get the rest of the stuff we need, so I'm going down to the grocery store to get the rest of the stuff we need. Just go and put the chicken in there, and we'll eat it. We'll get the rest, because I'm thinking about, man, I'm going to get that chicken again. Bro.
Like how she did that finger licking.
Oh, that finger licking thing. So I get back. She gave me that far away look, and I came there. The chicken was still looking at me like he had just came out the refrigerator.
Oh my gosh.
She said, baby, She can't. Now this is the thing I appreciate about it. She said, "Baby, I didn't cook that. I bought it."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Okay then." And so I went on and did the thing and cooked the chicken myself. So,
Right.
but the whole point was, she couldn't cook, and she told me she couldn't cook.
Right.
But the good part about that was, and I said that if she loves somebody, she'll learn how to do that, and she did.
Wow.
She really learned how to
That's
cook.
good. Yeah.
She learned how to cook. And
If you love somebody, you'll learn how to do it.
yeah, because it wasn't the fact she was trying to please me,
Right.
but it's something she didn't learn how to do because her mother died early. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't have the benefit. Like my mom,
Yeah.
I would actually go and watch her. And eventually there were days my mother let me cook.
Right.
So, and she came in one day, she said, "Yeah, that's a good meal you cook right there." I used to cook breakfast.
Right.
You know, so that's why I'm big on breakfast now because my mom that's the first meal she allowed me to cook.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So my mother, who was a magnificent cook, she could actually take nothing to make something out of it.
Right.
And I had that benefit of watching her,
Yeah.
and then I had the benefit of getting critiqued by her
Yeah.
or watching her because she said, "That's good." And so she said, "This is a good meal." So my dad was the same way. He could cook the same way. He had his special meals, and I watch him. I can cook his meals now.
Wow.
Because I remember I believe I was a visual learner.
Yeah.
And my mother taught me by letting me watch. She taught me how to make cornbread by letting me watch. So all of that stuff I can make from scratch. I ain't got to use Jiffy, but I use Jiffy because it's convenient now. But back then,
You can make it from scratch.
make it from scratch.
Wow.
And so my wife, in many ways, most time you'll marry somebody who like your mother. But my wife ain't like my mother.
Right.
Thank God for that. Not that my mom was bad, but I'm saying, but in many ways she's not like my mother.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll make that awkward decision. So she was from the Midwest,
Yeah.
and I'm from the South, and so for me, marriage was the ultimate. I finally found somebody, who I could be with for the rest of my life, and that having the whole from this day forward and all that stuff.
Right.
I took that seriously. You know, I ain't gonna hugging up on nobody else.
Right.
I tell you a story about that. I had a girl that I used to date. Somehow she got my phone number. She called my house in Alabama and got my phone number. And I was married to Lily. It was early now, I'm married.
Yeah.
And she started talking to me. We finished the conversation. She said, "Can I call you back?" "No, you can't call me back no more."
Wait. And this is when you had the house phone.
We had the house phone.
They was calling you up.
Yeah.
Wow.
She called me. We dated in college. We were going together. I said, "No, you can't call me no more."
My God.
I said, this is the end of our conversation. We can't have this conversation no more. Because I never want anybody to come back across my pathway to deflect from what I had in my wife.
Right.
You don't bring that kind of excitement to me anymore. What we had is over.
Yeah.
And I want you to understand, I'm plugging the cord, so don't call back.
You been blocked.
Yeah, we didn't have block back then.
Right.
But I want her to understand, because Lily asked me, "Who were you talking to?" I said, "The old girlfriend I had when I was in college." And I said, I told her she can't call me back.
Right.
Because she had got the number in a sneaky way to get to me. But, that was early in my marriage. She's trying to jack my marriage up. I'm saved now.
Right.
And I'm single-minded. You know what I'm saying? Single-minded, single love, single wife, nobody else, no honey buns, no sweetheart, no sugar cookies on the side.
Side pieces.
No side pieces. Don't come up here with that now. No. I'm trying to get it right with her. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no children, but I ain't messing with you either.
Right.
I don't want to have no outside conversation.
Right.
And to me, it was a single idea. It's that finally got the person I want. And God gave it to him, and he gave me a good wife, And she did everything she could to make sure our house was in order.
Right.
And then one day I was on my, and at that time, I think I was deep into Jesus. I mean, deep, man.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to work, and I'm listening to this guy preach about wives being at home. said, I came home. I believe the Lord wants you to come home.
Mm.
I felt the Lord was speaking to me.
Yeah.
I believe the Lord wants you to come home. Baby, I ain't coming home. She was mad about it. She said, I'm working. What reason? I said, I believe the Lord wants you to come home. So just like that.
Yeah.
And so as time wound up, she got pregnant with you.
Mm.
And she had to come home.
Right.
And she got sick with you,
Yeah.
where she couldn't go to work. The Lord had already, that's what I'm talking about when you find the right one and you walking in with the Lord. He put things out there before you, long before they happen.
Right.
I started talking to her about coming home, being a home as a wife. And so it was almost like me and her went to church together. Everything we did together. I mean, it was almost like we was two pigs in the pod. We just sit right there. Well, I was in the pulpit, when she was down there. But we drove to church together. We have one car. Well, we had two cars, but we drove in the same car.
Wow.
So everything we did together, mostly everything we did together.
Yeah.
It was almost like, when we fell in love, we was up on each other. You know what I'm saying? Man, no. We hang out with each other, so we would do stuff together. And so we went to church together. We did everything, I'm going to tell you what impressed me about her, because I'm going to tell you, because this one on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like the Bible teacher, janitor, grass cutter, church.
So you just served.
All the time.
You just served in the house of the Lord.
Yeah, zeal without knowledge. But anyway, so whatever needed to be done, I did it.
Yeah.
Got on the roof and put tar down.
At the church?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The roof was leaking.
Yeah, you just did it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whatever needed to be done,
You did it.
we did it. So I kept there and do that. And probably doing a lot of dangerous stuff too. No, I mean, the Lord, He saved us.
Right.
So one weekend, I think it was a day, she said, I said, I got to go to clean up the church. She said, I'll help you.
Mom said she'd help you.
That wasn't on the list.
Okay. That went on your list for a wife to help you serve in the house of the Lord. Or do everything that's necessary.
That's right.
I got you.
I was like, she going to help me clean the bathrooms?
Oh, wow.
Because I would go, on Saturday I had the keys to church, go clean up the church for Sunday.
Yeah.
And she's out helping. She came in, cleaned the bathroom. I looked at her. That impressed me, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because in our life we live today,
Yeah.
it's about what you got, not how you serve.
Yeah.
But she was willing to come and be a part of
Yeah.
what I was doing and didn't think nothing about it.
Right.
She said, I used to do that at church when I was home, so it ain't no big deal. So I didn't know that. Right. I didn't know that till she did it.
Wow.
And so I had a perfect partner. Because she would follow my lead.
Wow.
When I was driving the bus, she'd get on the bus with me.
Yeah.
And probably shouldn't have got on that bus. Anyway. So my wife was the perfect helpmeet. When the Bible talk about helpmeet,
Yeah.
where I was weak, she was strong.
Wow.
And my belief is that if we in marriage understand what it means and what God has done, when He puts you together, my strengths are not her strengths, and her strengths are not my strengths.
Yeah.
But if we put our strengths and weaknesses together, we cancel out our weaknesses. In many ways, that's what happened to us.
Okay. Wow.
And so when we went to one salary, we lived off one salary all the way through y'all young lives. We went from close to $50,000 to almost $20,000-$30,000.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I was making over close to 30 then. Late 20s, early 30s then. I worked for a corporation. And we went down to that, and the Lord fixed it so we could live in that budget.
Wow.
And when I lost my job, I went from $30,000 down to about 10. He allowed us to live within that.
Wow.
And she didn't have to go back to work. And so what I'm saying is that I had the right partner.
Right.
Not the right partner, but the right helpmeet.
Yeah.
That's the biblical term, my wife.
Yeah.
I had the right helpmeet. And when I had children, You was the first one that came along. Man, that was it. Oh, God, yeah. And, man, I was ready for that. I was ready for children because when you came along, man, shoot. I got pictures of you playing, we playing and stuff, man,
Yeah.
stuff we did, riding bikes and carrying you. Man, I was proud.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was one of them daddies that, you know, my wife said something, she thought something was wrong because my role was protector.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, Lily was like, whatever you say.
Mm.
And when it came down to it, I said, no, y'all can't hold him. I said, Lily, when we go to church, don't pass that baby to nobody.
My God.
So can I hold him? No, we can't hold him.
Yeah.
She held him. I said, don't pass him to anybody. And I'll tell you the story about that because one day her family came down. And so these folk came in there and everywhere. So they lining up. They washing hands, getting in line because they going to hold Jeffrey.
Right.
Lily was in there. She handed you to me
I ran.
and ran out the room.
She said, "You're not getting me in trouble."
She didn't. She gave him to me. And I'm standing there like that. Can I hold him? No, you can't hold him. Because as father protector,
Yeah.
I don't care. I understand what you want to do, but I got to live with you, and you are mine.
Yeah.
And I guess I took that role very seriously.
Right.
Nobody could get around me when it came down to my children and my wife.
Yeah.
Folks said a funny thing to my wife. Lily know what I'm doing.
Yeah. You fighting.
I'm dealing with them. Somebody said something out the way to her. She said, Jeff said something. I said, I deal with that. She know I ain't going to say nothing loud, but I'm going to go deal with it because you could not offend her without me dealing with it.
Right. Especially if they offend your wife, they offend you and disrespect you.
So when I've had some people to do that, and next thing you know, I said, I deal with it. I ain't said nothing else. I said, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I decide how I'm going to handle it.
Right.
But I'm going to deal with it directly because, to me, what God had given me was precious.
Mm.
I ain't getting this no more.
Right.
And so marriage to me was something, a gift of God to me as a husband. And he expected me to carry out my role of protector over you, Jessica, and John. And, I know one time I went up to the school. You had told me something was going on.
I did?
Yeah, you told me something was going on.
Gotcha.
And I went up there. And you didn't know I had been there. Somebody told you, your dad had been up here.
Yeah, you definitely would do that.
I'll just show up. Why?
Yeah.
Because the part of that I think dads don't get is that they got to listen to what's going on.
Mm.
And I was listening. Sometimes y'all didn't tell me directly. You'll tell me some stuff. But I took that seriously because God had given me a responsibility. And I had seen a lot of bad examples.
Okay.
In my life, my family, young people having children out of wedlock, my sisters having children out of wedlock, and I saw how they, in many ways, neglected their children. Mm. In many ways, I kept some of them,
right,
and they attached themselves to me and stuff like that. But I didn't think that was the proper way, and they had some pretty bad dads too, and so I said no, and I learned from that,
Yeah.
And so I kept myself, when it's my turn to come up, I'm always going to step up to the plate.
Yeah. Also, listen, you've been talking about, just how you felt you were protector of your children, of your wife. Let's talk about Grandpa. Let's talk about your dad and the example that, he was who he was to you and what that meant to you, that even like some of those things that you've seen, how those things got instilled in you to be a protector, to be a provider, what put that on the inside of you to hold dear to that? And I've seen that over the course of my life, like that has never changed. Like that's ultimately who you are. But where did that come from? Like, where did that stem from?
See, my dad, actually, my mother came up when she came up to visit when she was coming up. She come up by every baby. She came for every baby that was born. She always was here. And so I heard stories from her that I had never heard before. Mm-hmm. She said, and Lily was telling, you know how Jeff is? he do such and such, such and such. She said, he's just like his daddy.
Oh, wow.
So his daddy was the same way.
Mm.
And my dad he used to say stuff, you know. He was an older man, you know.
Yeah.
He had me when he was in his 50s, I think.
Yeah.
Or late 40s.
Yeah,
you
we're
know.
not gonna go into those. We're not gonna go into age discrepancies. But yeah,
My dad
it was a different time, y'all.
my dad was an older man.
Right. When you met grandma, yeah.
So he was an older man when he had me. So he had old man ways.
Gotcha.
In the sense of he was settled. He wasn't doing no foolishness, no tomfoolery and stuff like that.
Right.
He just was who he was. He was that, you know, he started talking. You know, he ain't mumbling. He talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't just let your children go around with everybody because you don't know what kind of spirits they got. And
That's true though. That's facts.
He said, you don't know what be on these folks. You know, your children around there. He said, when a woman is pregnant, she need to be somewhere quiet, meditating on the Lord.
Y'all hear that? That's wisdom right there. She need to be somewhere quiet, meditate on the Lord. Not meditate on everything else. Okay.
He said, they don't need to be out there dancing and jumping around. I mean, he would say this, you know. And the thing about my dad was he wasn't loud.
I got you.
He wasn't loud. You heard Dad raise his voice.
I've never heard him do that, no.
So Dad would just sit there and start talking. When he started talking, now, he's the kind, he'll pull you to the side and start talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then he get into that preaching mode, he going to preach to you too.
Right.
And so he said, yeah, these young folk running around here. And so I saw my granddad raise his great-grandchildren.
Wow.
To Meek and all them. Those are grandchildren. He raised them.
Right.
He will feed them. He will cook for them.
Right.
Let's say you go on a picnic. He'll cook you 5 pieces of fish and put in your bag.
My God.
So he was that kind. You know, if he know you got something going on, he'll take care of you.
Yeah.
He ain't had that much money, but what he had, he would give it.
Yeah.
And he always would find a way to help you. He retired. I remember when he retired, you know. He lived 24 more years after he retired.
Wow.
He lived another lifetime. But my granddad was one, and my dad, in my whole life, I saw him be off work maybe 2 to 3 times.
Oh, wow.
He went to work every single day. Never missed a day. He was gone when I got up in the morning, and I saw him late in the afternoon. So he was the kind, he was faithful, you know. And I learned that from him that, you know, you got to go.
Yeah.
You know, you rarely have me laying in bed on work days. I'm going to work. If I only feel good, I went to work. He was like that too.
Yeah.
He was in a wreck a couple of times. That's why he came home. He was back at work the next day.
Yeah.
So he was that kind. And he was a preacher too.
Yeah.
We had to go to church.
Going frolicking, doing all kinds of stuff.
I can't remember watching a football game on Sunday ever in my early life.
Oh, wow, because you was at church.
We had church. We had fellowship. Now, what fellowship is when you go to other churches after you left your church. See, we didn't go to church from 11 to 1. We went to church 11 until it was over.
Oh, wow. Gotcha. There was no ending to it. It's just whenever you was done.
And my dad, we used to go to church called 17th Street, AOA Church, one of the black Pentecost churches in Birmingham. 17th Street is one street over from 16th Street, the church that was bombed. And so my dad was a faithful preacher. When he got saved, my mom said, the Lord saved him from the streets, man. He was a rough dude, man. He didn't play. He didn't put my dad didn't put up with no foolishness with nobody.
Right.
And he didn't put up no foolishness with nobody. You gonna talk about whooping him, you got a problem. You got a problem.
Right.
He used to be a professional boxer.
Oh, right.
So
right.
He would. So I learned early, okay, I ain't taking that whooping.
Right.
So when he said, do something, who you talking? And then my dad would say, who you talking to, boy? You know what that means. Either you need to get to stepping,
right,
or you finna get some whooping.
Right.
That's his thing. Who you talking to, boy?
Yeah.
I quit mumbling. I don't even mumble no more.
Yeah, I got a story about that.
And so I would, when I learned how to, one day I was mumbling and he heard me. After that, I shut up and went down. I go mumble on the trees. After that, I left the house and started talking under the trees where nobody could hear me. But my mom tell the story about my dad was that he was at 17th Street. He became a preacher. She said he came out of the streets. He was rough, had a rough preaching. You know, he came out of a rough life. You know, and my dad used to tell me he carried this big old long knife. He told me about this. Now this is what he told me about this knife he used to carry and stuff. You know, and I guess he was whooping a few people too.
I guess so. Whooping with the word and then whooping with a knife. You know
my dad wasn't no joke. You know?
Okay.
And so so when he got saved, and they went up. As a matter of fact, they used to be members of East Birmingham Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
And so that was a big church in Birmingham. One year, we used to go there. Mm-hmm. And so I asked my mom, "Is there a church?" Because I couldn't. I said, "Is there a church that used to be by a side of a ditch or something?" They tore it down.
Okay.
Beautiful church. So, but anyway, so my dad, he got saved. My mom was saved too. As a matter of fact, this is how my mom and my dad were married. Mm-hmm. Got met. Since you brought that up, since you asked about my dad, they was at a prayer meeting.
My God, we need more prayer meetings.
They was at a prayer meeting at this person called Mother Lamb.
Uh-huh.
And the head bishop, one of the head bishops in Birmingham, I think that was his aunt or grandmother.
Okay.
And so one night they was at the prayer meeting. And so I think it went something like this. Did the Lord say something to you? Talk to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
About getting married?
Yeah.
They got married.
Wow. That's a different time, y'all. Totally different time. Because today we can't do that. We can't do it just like this. Something similar, but we just can't be like, did the Lord say?
I think that's the way the story
so
went.
It was just like, the Lord said, boom, we married.
That's the kind of conversation they had.
And here we are.
Here the conversation, the way I got the story was that the Lord said something's about to get married. They ended up getting married.
Wow.
They met in a prayer meeting. They prayer meeting.
I wonder what they was praying, because that's some kind of prayer meeting.
Yeah, because Mother Lamb had a lot of folks came out. A lot of preachers came out at that prayer meeting.
Wow.
My dad was one of them. My mom was one of them.
Yeah.
Bishop Meadows was one of them.
Okay.
He's a big bishop in Birmingham. So, you know, I'm a little sketchy on because I'm hearing this from people who tells me the story. I think my mom told me this story years ago.
Okay.
And so from there, so he was a faithful man. So he ended up going to AOH church. Mm-hmm. And he was faithful, man, faithful. Now, I got to tell you this story because this is important, because this is the kind of man he was. Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of thing God used him, was that he was appointed to a church and he didn't have a car.
Oh, wow.
40 miles away.
And he used to walk 40 miles? Or did somebody come pick him up?
Now, let me tell you that part of the story.
Because Jesus, that's a long time. That's a long walk.
It was in Corona Street, AOH Church.
Uh-huh.
That's the name of the church, Corona Street.
Right.
I found it out later because I remember we used to go up there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the backstory because I'm a little boy. So my aunt, she had a blue Buick. They used to drive us up there.
Wow.
And then the head bishop in Birmingham said, "You can't drive them."
Oh, wow. So you're trying to sabotage the thing.
All right. So this is the element that gets a little bit healthy, because he didn't have a car.
Right.
He had no way to get to church.
Right.
So he ended up driving the Trailway bus to get up there.
Wow.
So we ended up getting on the Trailway bus going up there to church.
40 miles out.
40 miles out. And we had to get back on Sunday night because we had to go to school on Monday.
Wow.
Remember I tell you we didn't have no time on Sunday?
Yeah, so 80 miles round trip.
80-mile round trip. And that time in the 60s, we ain't had no money.
Yeah.
Not that kind of money. So we used to go up there on Sunday morning, Deacon Stewart, Mother Harrington, Sister Evans.
Yeah.
I know these folks 'cause we used to eat at their house. We didn't bring no food. The folk fed us.
Wow.
While I was there. We stayed at Sister Stewart and Deacon Stewart house. They fed us every Sunday.
Wow, that's a blessing.
And we would go up there for Sunday morning and had Sunday night service too.
Right.
Watch no TV in between. Then go outside to play. We used to go next door and watch Varsity at the bottom of the seat through somebody's truck. We in there looking in the window.
Oh my gosh.
And so my dad had to make a way. The Lord made a way for him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what happened. Mother Johnson, not Mom. I'm thinking it's Mother Johnson. Mother Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
She said, Reverend, could you come by my house? Okay. I was there that day.
Mm-hmm.
So she got this big old shed. And said, Reverend, I got a car out there. You think you want to look at it?
Wow.
Had a big piece of old plastic over it.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled the plastic off. Car ran.
Wow.
That's how we got a car to go to church.
Wow.
Saints had it right there.
Just waiting for you.
This is the kind of life we live.
Right. Because your dad was faithful to God and
God met his every need.
wow.
So he got another church.
Wow.
So my dad was a pastor for years. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And so we've been in church all our lives. So God always blessed it that way.
Mm.
And so, and the truth of the matter, and this is the thing I think I've never shared with you, every one of us was gifted in some kind of way.
Mm.
Every one of my sisters and brothers gifted some way.
Right.
My older sister, she got skipped from the 7th grade to the 9th grade.
Mm.
My sister Cheryl was so quick, she got skipped she got skipped 2 grades.
Mm-hmm.
She went from like the 6th, 7th grade to the 9th grade.
Okay.
Chot got the same thing. James got the same thing. And the truth of the matter, I got this. There was some blessing that the Lord had laid on us.
Right.
Through him.
Yeah.
And every morning, he was up praying for us.
Mm.
One time, my sister told a story about my dad. He told him to turn the TV off. And they wouldn't do it. So he went upstairs and started praying. TV went off.
Wait, the TV just clicked off or?
TV clicked off.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
My sister Cheryl tells that story to me. He went up there and started praying.
And the TV clicked off.
TV clicked off.
Wow.
They would actually call for my dad to come pray for him. They said, Ella Smith, we need you to come over here.
Mm.
And he tells this one story they told at his funeral about this lady who had been in a coma for months.
Mm-hmm.
He would go to the hospital every single day and pray for her.
Wow.
And one day, the woman's eyes came open and woke up, and she was well.
Mm.
The nurse ran out of the room. Talking about, you don't pray her back to life. She ended up coming to church because she had never seen that before.
Wow.
Usually people who've been out of coma that long never wakes up.
Right.
They tell Liz at his funeral that that's what he said she was there every day.
Wow.
So he been a man of prayer. So he was a man of prayer like that. He'd come in and say, let me pray for you. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
He come pray for you, and people have gotten well,
Wow.
And so my dad was that kind of guy, They used to say this is the story. They say, when he come to the corner, you hide.
Did you hide?
Hide from
Got you high. Got you. Okay.
Tell me he'll preach your high down.
That's a preacher right there. Wow.
He'll preach your high off of you. Tell me, God, I don't want to talk to Ella Smith. I ain't gonna be high no more when I get through with it.
He said, I'm gonna be back on earth. And I don't want to be here. He said, I just wasted all this product.
Oh, Lord. And so my dad was that kind of man of faith.
Okay.
Now, he believed the word. Now, when his eyes were going back, he's still up reading the word. You know, 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, he read.
Right.
And he didn't have a third grade education.
Wow.
Was the best pronunciator and executor, could sing too.
See, I didn't know that.
Oh, God,
Okay.
yeah, he could sing.
Okay.
He would lead, sing. Yep, my dad would do all of that.
Wow.
And he was a servant.
Yeah.
You know, he did what God, and he protected us now.
Yeah.
You know, ain't nobody going to do nothing to our children now. My dad didn't play that.
Yeah.
You know, but he was that kind. He was more of, I guess I'm more he's the prototype, and I'm the type. You know, I'm the one that kind of like
took his example.
Because after a while, I realized he wasn't loud, he wasn't boisterous, he wasn't braggadocious or nothing like that.
Right.
But what he did, he did. Some things he did, you didn't know he did it.
Right.
But he did it.
Yeah.
And you appreciate that about him.
Yeah. So hearing that about, Grandpa, he was the prototype and you took his example. And then now we have this new generation. Now, you're a pastor, you've been a preacher, you're a teacher in the school system, so you deal with the kids on a daily basis. What are some of the things that, as a man, that you feel that these next generation of men need? Because, now they need examples. Like we have some examples, but we don't have examples as like Grandpa. We have examples like you. We have other men that are here. But then what do you feel as a man that this next generation of men need to have as an example and need to be focused in on so that they can be the protectors, providers, the leaders that God has already established a man to be from the get-go?
The biggest problem I see now, to be honest with you, is the absence. And sometimes I used to say absent because they don't want to be there.
Right.
But I found out another truth is that's absent because they're being blocked from being there. That's the picture I couldn't see.
Gotcha.
And so that element, what I find with the young men that I deal with on a daily basis is that they are not being trained because the wisdom that I received from my dad is not being passed on from dad to this young man now.
Yeah.
And so a part of it is that in my little small capacity as a teacher, because they reject authority so quickly now, by virtue of, and my principal yesterday made me realize is that sometimes you remind them of the dad that's not there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had never thought about it quite like that.
Right.
Or the person that they don't like that authority because you'll stand up being a man that they don't have.
Right.
When he said that to me, I said, okay, that makes sense because you need wisdom. I need wisdom too.
Yeah.
And sometimes you remind them of that. But the way I try to fill it in now is that there are times when I have to talk to them as a father is talking to a son.
Yeah.
I pull them aside and ask them. My new question I'm asking them now is it came to me this morning about what are you trying to be? What is it that you really want to be?
Right.
That's my new question because I need to have them to start reflecting on the kinds of decisions you're making now has great impact. And I found out to argue with them is never to help them. But to find a way to get around the argument and get to their heart and start talking to them is the thing that I need to do because I say, I ask questions now. What do you believe about yourself?
Yeah.
How is it that you're letting emotion control you? Because no one is asking those questions.
Right.
And what is happening is they begin to think now, we had that conversation yesterday. Stuff come up the next day. You did say, talk to me about that, Ms. Smith. Now, it's more of I'm a teacher of mathematics, but mathematics is the vehicle to get to them.
Right.
Otherwise, I thought about it this time. I said, if I hadn't have been teaching math, I couldn't say these things to them.
Right.
And so I guess now teaching is no more just math, is to get to the person.
Yeah.
I used to say this, and I think I was telling you this, that my job is to make you better every single day.
Mm.
And I had to change that. My job is to love you every single day.
Wow.
The issue now is that if the heart isn't transformed or isn't changed by the love of God, the math will help you, but it won't get you where you ultimately need to be. I'm going to still teach the math. The point I'm getting at is,
right.
But my intent now is not just to make you better.
Yeah.
It's to help you to experience the love of God.
Mm.
That's the new emphasis that I'm putting out there now, is that the love of God is the only thing that transforms people. But even in that, they'll know they've been touched by the love of God, because once when they go down the life, that's what he was trying to show me.
Yeah.
So I think that's what is missing. We incarcerate them because there are some things they do are so evil and vile. But before they get to that point, how do we change the course?
Mm.
See, when you change the course of a ship, if you're a long ways out, you make small
pivots,
yeah. Small degree change.
Yeah.
When you come in close, you got to make heavy cuts, and that might lead to a lot of damage.
Yeah.
While they're still far out, let's start making those changes that allows them to have a safer journey in their life, as opposed to waiting till they're in trouble. Then we got to make these crazy cuts, and it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of, and I see as a father, as a preacher, as a minister, that my job isn't just to give them only what the curriculum called for,
right,
but give them what God is calling for.
right,
And that's through life touching life. That's through iron sharpening iron. That's through giving them a word when they're not looking for a word.
right.
Using those moments of downtime to feed the soul, as opposed to just trying to feed the head only.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Wow. And I think that is such a blessing to have a black man in the school system to be providing that type of education, that type of care, that type of oversight, because you don't get that, in places and spaces. And so the fact that you said that, I think that was so good, is that not to make you better, but to love you in such a capacity that the love of God transforms them into who God calls them to be, because they're not going to get that anywhere else. And I think that even as believers, and disciples, we have to understand that we're not called for the church, we're called to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as men, I feel like we need men that are willing to take wherever they go and be who God has called them to be the light set up on a hill that no one can snuff out. And it starts with the men. And I think you've exemplified that my entire life. Like, I've seen you, we be in the store. Hey, how you doing? The next thing you know, we in a conversation. Do you know Jesus? Do you love Jesus? I go to blah, blah, blah. You just sparks a conversation wherever you are. And you've been that catalyst to people, and just showing that love and that care and that tender mercy. And and that's what you've instilled in me, is just, love God, love people, and he'll do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that through your life, how you've loved, Mom, how you've loved us. And then at the same time, like, trying to exemplify that example out, not doing it perfectly. And I realized that, a long time, and you've shared that with me many times, is that it's not about being a perfect man, just being about being a willing man, and just having faith. And, I know you have many faith stories, but then those faith stories have helped me navigate, this life as a man that I've endured just for a short time. And it's been something that, I can never take away or never would want to erase. And so, that's great. That's awesome. So real quickly, before we, bring this in, to a close, when you think about holistic man, that title, that phrase, what comes to mind for you about that? We're in the time where men are being ostracized, they're being incarcerated, they're being put at the wayside, but in God's divine order, man was created, first to have, to be protected, to be provided, to have authority figure that he used men. Not they saying that he didn't use women, but he used men as a pillar, as a statement of what's to come. When you hear holistic man, what does that resonate with you? And how do you feel that could bring some type of revival to men across the state, the country, the globe? Holistic man, dealing with the holistic man.
Well, one of the things that, as you were talking and as you asked that question, I think godly men, men who love God, who establish their lives in that arena exclusively. I didn't say perfect men.
Yeah.
Because we gonna do nothing perfectly.
You're right about that.
But the one who establishes life in relationship with the Lord through Jesus Christ. Because I think when it all comes down to it, that is the power by which we establish the authority.
Yeah.
If God is talking to a man, he's a man of prayer. That's one thing that my dad taught me, and I believe in it. You pray for your children every day. You pray for your family every day.
Yeah.
You make sure you keep them before the Lord. A man who walks by faith. My faith story is this. Many things I've gotten, it wasn't because I had innate ability.
Right.
Or I had an inside track on anything. But there are times God walked me right to it because I was trusting him.
Yeah.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
See, and walking in the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. Make sure we're clear about that. The Holy Spirit of God that when we are saved, he fills us with his Spirit.
Yeah.
Walking in that, there are times you can be walking along and he will direct you to a place you need to be, or give you, like you said, the wisdom of that boy's mine. These children belong to me, or this place I want you to go to.
Yeah.
This is where I want you to establish something,
Yeah.
Having that direction that comes from God, and knowing when you audit his direction,
Right.
and being brought back. That's what I think a holistic man is in the spiritual sense, because not that he's gonna do everything perfectly,
Right.
but he has the capacity and the ability to let the word of God speak to him, to renew him. And when you find yourself on the wrong track, you repent and come back to the Lord, and he restores everything. Yeah, because if we are missing anything, that's what we're missing.
Right.
Now, I'm going to say this, and it's not controversial, but it's true. You can't change God's order. If God has made the man to be the man, and he's authority, you can it's almost try to knock him down. He's like that ball. You hit it, he's going to come right back
Bounce
up,
back.
Bounce back. And what I learned, this is the hardest lesson I learned. You can say you the authority all you want, but when it comes down to it, God is going to honor what he said.
Yeah.
He's going to honor.
Right.
And when it comes back to it, if you will be patient and wait on God,
right,
you will find that he will put that thing right back the way he said it's supposed to be.
Right.
And patience in this whole thing of what it means to walk with God means that waiting on God. He will establish the order that he wants, and you just stay in your place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stay in your place and walk the way God wants you. No matter what everybody else is doing, he's requiring you to walk the way he tells you to walk.
Right.
You know, think about it. He tells David, you know, go do this. David, go do it.
Right.
He right where he need to be.
Yeah.
Or he tell the prophet, go do such, 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 such. They go down and do it. They right where they supposed to be.
Yeah.
Go down there, Peter, and get that fish and pull that mud out of his mouth. The order has been established as he obeys God.
Yeah.
God keeps him right where he needs to be.
Right.
As we obey God, as men of God, walking in the fellowship, in the spirit, guess what? No one can take your authority away from you.
Right.
Because God going to come to you first.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get around it, try to knock it down, try to minimize it. You can't minimize God when he says this is the way it has to be.
Right.
And there's a blessing flow from that. So when we're talking about men, be what God called you to be. Then you'll live out what it means to be a holistic man.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you, Pop. I appreciate you taking the time just to sit with me and launch this vision of holistic man and sharing your life, your story, your wisdom with us. And we're definitely gonna have to have you back, but I'm grateful, that you were here to just, give some time and some effort, your wisdom in this. And so y'all give it up for Jeffery Clayton Smith Sr., episode 1 of Holistic Man. So I hope you were blessed by that. I hope you got some wisdom, you got some nuggets about what it means to be a man. I hope it blessed your life. And listen, we'll be back with some more episodes of Holistic Man coming soon. But thank y'all. Thanks, Pop.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
Holistic man, give me how when I don't understand. Guide my steps with a gentle hand. God make me a holistic man.